Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame number 146, The Myth of the Demon Boy, How We Justify Mistreatment of Boys, where we will be looking at yet another video thought piece on the Netflix series Adolescence. It's
Documentary.
Yeah, the documentary. Sorry, I misspoke. Documentary slash fictional
Absolutely
account.
True. Completely non-fictionalized.
Totally happened.
Totally happened.
You can't deny it because of how well shot it was.
But also
anyway,
they can find anecdotal evidence that it is correct, because there have been white boys who've stabbed people in schools. It has happened. So have girls, by the way, but
that's not important.
That's not important. Nah. Okay.
Yeah, that's not really the point here. So,
in fact, I'm a misogynist.
We are here to shit on men, and white men in particular, because if we shit on white men without anybody like taking issue with it, we can shit on the rest of men because we will have already set the precedent by shitting on white men. So ultimately, this is about all men, but we start with the men that it's permissible to attack, and then you just sort of like open up you widen your net little by little, and all of a sudden you can just cast it wherever. And if there is a racially inconvenient component to your shitting on men, then you just start from, oh, well, it's just a male problem. And then you can you stay safe, and you never actually make anything better. You never address anything, because why would you? You need things to get worse so that you can justify your paycheck. You can justify getting paycheck after paycheck, getting tenure, getting promotions, staying in office, whatever it is that you're looking for. So, or just growing more subscribers on your YouTube channel. So we're going to be looking at a video called "This is What Happens When Boys Aren't Taught How to Lose: Toxic Masculinity in Adolescence." And the YouTube channel, I'm not no lie, okay? The name of the YouTube channel is literally Paranoia, but there's nothing paranoid happening here, okay? So I don't know if anybody in the chat has seen this video. I watched it because I had to prepare for the show, and my blood is boiling, but I'm going to try to keep from becoming emotional, even though this video would tell me that I should be allowed to become emotional, but not that way. Not like, not righteous indignation. That's not cool. I should just cry. I should just cry and accept that I'm a loser. That's that's why it says this is what happens when boys aren't taught how to lose. Just lose, guys. Just lose, and things will work out. Women will respect you if you do that.
Yeah, you'll get a date. Just lose. Just be a loser.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh man.
So
yes, okay, but it's interesting though. It's like you can't. How many generations of boys have to lose before retribution is had for whatever happened in the past, so that we can conjecture or pretend that happened in the past? Like, this is the real question. At what point do boys get theirs? I mean,
at what point? Well, yeah. I mean, if they just decide to do it, it just gets done. So, if you're lucky, honestly, you're lucky that they're just checking out. Yeah. Because if boys get to the point where they're like, you know what, we're taking the power back, they're just going to take it. And women can't do a damn thing about it. And you know what? I'm not going to weep. I'm just going to say, you should have listened. And that's it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to do. There's nothing. And I'm not saying that I take any joy in any of this. It's just you're just going to keep doing this. And at some point, boys are going to be like, you know what? I think we're just going to have to put things in check now. And they will. And if they do, women can't do anything about it. So all of this is predicated on the idea that men could take away women's rights now if they chose to. And the only reason why it hasn't happened is because they haven't chose to. Okay, and it's because they still think women care about them.
Yes. So, well, here's the thing. In every society, women sort of define what is in some ways the purpose, or not like the worth of men's actions in protecting and providing for women. And what feminists specifically are attacking is this kind of idea that boys can develop a unique value in certain, like they have something unique to give in service to society. And when you attack that, you basically decouple boys' identity to the society you're part of. Well, and well, once you've done that, yeah, you eventually just lose control over the whole thing. It just spins out of control. And I mean, because the thing is that yes, men are the ones who ultimately are the ones who defend and provide rights in society. However, most men in our society at this point in time define their self-worth in terms of providing for women these kind of almost, they're not even physical things anymore. They're like psychological resources of rights. So I think that ultimately what would happen is there's going to be generations of boys who aren't connected to that whole identity in terms of providing women's rights. And this is something like the last century, it was actually men who spearheaded all of this. No, like they were the ones who are most likely to want to see women get the vote. Women were like, no. So it's like this idea that our society created this identity for men where they afford women these psychological resources rather than physical resources known as rights. And I think ultimately what we'll see happen is that the people who will end up continuing to fight for women's rights will be men, even as this entire system collapses, because that's how they've identified their self-worth. But then there will be a whole bunch of men who've checked out and other men who just don't give a damn. But it's like this is it's like in Afghanistan. What did the men do? They fought to the death. What did the women do? They went out and bought a burqa. And it's because those men identified with that particular form of giving women something. And that's the unfortunate truth of it all. So it's I think it's a little more complicated than boys will just take away women's rights. It's that women will cut their connection to those things as being giving them a positive sense of self, like feminists say. You don't get a thank you. What that's the bare minimum. We should have always had our rights. You took them away in the first place. What gave you the right to be, and all of that stuff? So they won't even recognize that men who give women their rights in the context of a Western system are positive. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So they're cutting that connection. Go ahead.
No, my point was not that I wasn't making a prediction. I was saying that if it gets to the point where that happens, then people will act surprised. That's all. And there won't be anything they can do about it, even though, yes, it will be men that will stand up, like essentially defend women at the end of the day. And it will become a thing that kills men, that men will be harmed by this in the long run, no matter what. And women could stop it, like they could stop it now, but they're not doing it. So
yeah, essentially what I'm saying is that I think this absolves women of the culpability. I mean, the thing is that, and this is something I've said to these women who are like on the radical feminist separatists. I don't know if they're lesbian separatists, but the radical feminists. And they talk about how it's great that women aren't having children in the West. And it's like, well, okay, so you are essentially dooming to extinction the society that gave you rights. This is your choice, ladies. All of this will be your choice. It'll be your choice every single time you say to yourself, oh, it's the bare minimum, instead of expressing gratitude and saying, hey, it's great that men in the West have given us their rights, or our rights, or have afforded us these rights because they make the ultimate physical sacrifice to create and defend a society that affords these rights, right? No gratitude, no recognition of any kind of positive contribution to these societies by the men in them. That's what's going to kill it. It's going to be women no longer upholding their part of the psychological bargain with men, and And again, what will happen is that boys will just end up being divorced from any of the processes of maintaining the society. They'll check out. Maybe some of them will be absorbed into like a Genghis Khan army, but most of them will just check out, and then it'll just deteriorate. But anyway, we are not even into the video.
Yeah, I know. We got to get into the video. So this video is using the Netflix television show Adolescence to make the case for my favorite feminist talking point, toxic masculinity. I said if you're in the special chat, I said that completely sarcastically. I actually despise the concept of toxic masculinity. But anyway, let's go ahead and play. I just have it set up to a couple of main points. And really, this isn't about the show. So I want to make that clear. If you've watched it, you're going to tell me like, well, the plot, this happens. That's not relevant at all. The show is just the launch pad for the discussion. So like, that's the point. Okay. The show is already done what it meant to do. It's already done the psyop. Now we all have to wrestle with the stupid ideas that came out of the psyop. So let's go ahead and listen to the first clip.
Through trial and error, they learn it in the way a room changes when a man becomes uncomfortable, in the way the word no needs to be softened, framed, or delayed. Not because it's unclear, but because the reaction might not be safe. In the silence that follows being interrupted, dismissed, or called dramatic for expressing a perfectly reasonable feeling.
I'm just pausing for the banana there. Note the super dramatic music and, you know, like the way the whole thing is just so emotionally manipulative, like from start to finish. Sad piano music, super scary, like weird, like found footage type B-roll, you know, ripped paper. Like it's if you fall for this, you're a retard and you need to get checked into an asylum. But anyway, let's play the rest of the clip.
Toxic masculinity doesn't just shape male behavior, it reshapes the lives of the people around them, especially women, who are often left to manage the emotional fallout. It doesn't always show itself through violence. More often, it shows up in control, in how some men treat affection like a transaction, in how emotional expression is treated like weakness, and how that weakness is projected onto the women closest to them.
Are you replying to people in the chat?
Yeah, somebody's upset. Okay, so Andy Defresny says, to the man in this interview, quit, leave. Your points are not being responded to. This is not a dialogue. You're being talked at, not with.
What?
He's talking about our conversation about who is ultimately to blame. I will maintain that women will ultimately be to blame for the implosion of Western society, period, not men. Men will probably do whatever they can to keep it afloat. At least the men that are still somehow manage to navigate the feminist minefield in trying to disconnect or trying to get them to maintain society without having any positive reflection on themselves for having done so is what I'm getting at. There will be men who navigate that minefield and continue to try to maintain our society as it is. But it'll be women who ultimately are responsible for its end. That's what I'm saying. It's going to be women who are ultimately responsible because for whatever reason, they can't express any gratitude for the men who maintain our society, to the point where now there are probably generations of men who do not know if maintaining the society actually benefits women. You get what I'm saying? I mean, the more feminists say, oh, we always live in patriarchy. Everything is the worst patriarchal day in all of human existence. How do men know what to do? Like, how is maintaining this society actually maintaining oppression of women? Because that's where feminists are at now. Remember, I think it was Naomi Wolf or Gloria Steinem. Oppression of women has never been worse. Since the 60s, it's gotten worse. Like, how do you be in that context? How do you know how to benefit the world or to uphold Western civilization as a man in that context? It will be because women have wanted to have their cake and eat it too, in my opinion. And yes, it will probably be a result of men just giving up, as Brian said, or men just throwing in with a system that makes some goddamn fucking sense.
Yeah, I think they'll do it like if men decide that they're just going to seize power from women, they're going to do it for women and be like, look, we need to step in here and stop you from destroying everything because it's going to hurt
Mhm.
you. And
Mhm.
I think even in the case where men step in and oppress women, which I don't think is going to look like oppression, they're
Mm-mm.
going to do it to save them from themselves.
Yes.
It's like a woman gets drunk and rowdy in a bar and starts fighting with everybody, and the bouncer or her date or some random dude just like takes her and puts her in the car and drives her to a hotel room so that she can sleep it off, like for her own protection. I think it might get
Yes.
to that point. So
Yeah, yeah. And it's not I don't think, at least on the Western side, I mean, if you're talking about men who are part of different religious or ethnic continuums, yeah, they might actually engage in the kind of violence. But for men born in the West, the reason why they will dismantle women's rights is because they think it will protect women. That'll be the reason.
mhm.
And I've
Yeah,
said this for a decade now. And feminism is laying the groundwork for that, because feminists, like, look at the case where that woman who was an influencer who ended up getting killed, and she was pulled over by the cops. Do you remember that? I don't remember her
yeah,
name.
it was she was like a popular influencer, and she was in a can she had like a van life thing, and I think
Mhm.
her boyfriend or whatever killed her. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, she had a van life thing and her boyfriend killed her or something. And if you remember the name of this woman, just put it in the chat and I really appreciate it. But the police pulled her over. He had the marks. She was They both, I think, pretty much insinuated that she was the one who was being the aggressor at that point in time. And the feminists who got into this said that the police failed to protect her. But the only thing that the police could have done was have a wardship over her and say, okay, we think that you are engaged in some kind of domestic violence. Now you no longer get to have authority over your life. We make the decisions for you. Because they specifically said, hey, I think you should get like separate hotel rooms. And she decided to continue on with him. At that point, what are they supposed to do if they don't have the authority to make decisions for her? So if feminists continue to complain and get upset at men for not making decisions in favor of women's safety, right? If they keep blaming men for failing to keep women safe, eventually men will realize, hey, the priority here is to keep them safe. Therefore, the police should have wardship over all women in society. And when a woman gets pulled over like that and the police say, hey, you need to go, cool off in separate hotel rooms, instead of just making it a suggestion, the police take her, put her in their wardship van, and say, now you are our property. We are going to take you where you're safe. Right? That's what the feminists are laying out by continuing to say, not accept that women have to deal with the consequences of their own choices in their lives. And that includes consequences like those ones. Otherwise, men have to have the authority to make decisions for women. Right? And I've said this for years and I've watched it happen. And if we end up in The Handmaid's Tale, it'll be because feminists. And it won't be The Handmaid's Tale. Women will still be able to choose who they have children with. They just won't be able to choose to walk down a street. Okay, sorry about
Yeah.
that.
It's all right. I got so it was Gabby Petito. That's the name of the
Yeah,
woman.
thank you.
And I also want to point out, I know someone who knew her. Um, I can't remember her name. Megan, I think. She used to be a kind of like semi-vocal men's issues advocate as well. But when Gabby Petito died, she basically like dropped out of social media. I don't know that she figured out how to reckon with it, but I know someone who knew her. So, but anyway, um, okay, so let's go ahead and play the next clip. So that bit was, well, it's the way that the toxic masculinity doesn't just manifest like in, boys not crying. It's like the damage that's left behind, and it's very insidious, yet invisible, yet ever present. So All right, so let's go ahead and play the next clip.
Public spaces, weigh silence during conflict, and second-guess themselves in conversations that should have been simple. It's in the way their pain is minimized, and their anger is framed as instability. Toxic
is this about
masculinity
women?
doesn't
No, this is about women. Yeah, it's about women.
So
The way
I
that
guess,
I think so. I think so. Let me maybe go back to the beginning of this. Hold on.
yeah, I'm pretty
I
sure
don't
this
wanna.
is women.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see.
or mirrors, not because they chose that role, but because the system around them quietly assigned it. This isn't theoretical. It's not just cultural analysis. It's in the way women adjust their tone before disagreeing.
So yeah,
Oh,
see,
wait,
it's about
actually,
women.
I got something for this and I sent it to you. I don't know if you saw that. It's in the
You're talking
way
about the
women
toddlers?
the toddlers. It's in the way women
Yeah.
adjust their tone. Oh, really? Is that the case? Because I'm seeing something completely different. I don't think women
Here.
adjust their tone. In fact, honestly, yeah, let's take a look at this.
All right, I'm gonna watch it. Don't say anything because if you talk, it'll change scenes.
Babies wear diapers, and I'm not a baby. And you're wearing a diaper. Well, babies wear diapers, and you're wearing a diaper. Well, I'm not a baby. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I meant you're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby, though. Yes, you're wearing a diaper. Well, I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper. I'm not. Well, I'm not even a baby, though. But you're wearing a diaper. You can't say but. That's a bad word. Oh, I didn't say real but.
Oh, good Lord. She really knows it. She knows tone policing, out of context. Oh, sorry.
Gentlemen, I regret to inform you.
Oh, good Lord. So, yeah, she doesn't sound like she's, in fact, if you look at the body language, this is something I put out on Twitter. Her body language is very aggressive.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Her fingers in his face.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
she
we
actually
watched it
pokes
already,
him.
so you can see that, but
She actually pokes him at one point. Looks like it hurts.
mhm.
So she's very dominating with her body language. And I guarantee if it was the other way around, the parents who are currently snickering and just filming would actually intervene, because this is the standard. Like, whatever this guy is saying is bullshit. It's actually justifying the reverse. This is what is acceptable. This kind of very aggressive, physically dominating, actually harmful body language, actually touching the boy and hurting him in the process of having the argument. This is something that most people look at and they think it's cute because it's a girl. But if you reversed the sexes and had the boy doing that, they would immediately say that there's something wrong and the parents should intervene to prevent the boy from physically dominating his sister in that way. So, and this wouldn't just be a cute thing that was shared all over social media. And nobody remarked on it either. Nobody said, hey, this girl is being aggressive towards her brother. Nobody.
Well, actually,
Except
there
me.
was somebody in the chat that said there was a woman in the chat that said technically she's a toddler, not a baby. Like completely an adult woman, completely missing the point. Like, yeah, but she's wearing a diaper. That's the only thing the boy is saying is that she's wearing a diaper. And she's insists that he think of her differently despite the reality. And there are even women in the comments saying, but she's not a baby, she's a toddler.
Yeah, but they're not even focusing. They're focusing on the logical art or the illogical argument. But again, the behavior. This is behavior that we find acceptable. So this man is full of absolute shit when he's talking about, oh, women are expected to be small and I mean, I get into constant arguments with feminists, not because they are actually changing the dynamic between men and women. They still, there's still all they can do is ask men for stuff, except demand it or be really crabby about it. And so the only difference is that I'm saying, hey, let's express some gratitude and some politeness. And and all of that. And they're like, no, you're a pick me. Even though it's exactly the same dynamic, they're still asking men for stuff too, or demanding it from men. So there's no change in the dynamic. They're not creating womantopia where women do everything for themselves. It still demands towards men. The only difference is I'm saying, hey, let's maybe be polite or pull some of our own weight and be polite and grateful about it, about the things that men do, right? And they don't like that. And in my position, and I know my position is a minority position, right? It is a minority position among women. Being grateful to men, being kind to men, being compassionate towards their issues is a minority position among women. And so this guy is totally out to lunch. And the other thing is that I think what's happening here overall, when he talks about these things, because this dynamic between that boy and that girl is the acceptable dynamic, is that he wants to appeal to the possibility of the demonic boy, the reversed dynamic, as justification for that girl abusing her brother. Oh, her brother could. Oh, he could be that way. Therefore, it's justified to actually abuse boys to make sure they don't become that way. And I think that's what this all is about. Adolescence isn't about reality. It's about an excuse to justify abusing boys. Okay.
All right, let's play more.
It's in the way they pause before rejecting someone. It's in the way they carry tension in public spaces, weigh silence during conflict, and second-guess themselves in conversations that should have been simple.
Really,
it's in
that
the way
kid
their
was
pain is
second-guessing.
minimized.
This is not the way women conduct themselves. They're so afraid about strange men, but they still, hook up with them. This doesn't resemble reality. I don't see women doing this at all. Again, they're trying to construct a justification. This isn't describing reality. It's describing a justification for a certain type of behavior towards men. Okay, I'm going to shut up now.
This might not be a real person, though. This might be an AI, because some of the ways that it speaks, well, like somebody may have fed the AI a bunch of prompts and asked it to write and talk about, but it doesn't matter, because what it shows is like, this is how normal this is. Like, this is how normalized it is. The AI can regurgitate feminist talking points just as efficiently as a regular feminist can. Like, that just goes to show, how pre-recorded these people are, literal NPCs. But I don't know if I'm right about that. It just like, I listened to it, and there's some of the ways of speaking sound a bit AI-ish, like the pauses, like where, because like when human beings talk, we have a certain way of like speaking sentences, and we know when when appropriate pauses happen, and this one misses some, and I'm like, is this AI? I think it's AI. But anyway,
I just want to get in here for a sec. I gotta fix a problem, so I'm gonna have to come in and come back. I'll be right back. So you can just play it. I mean,
all right,
it's
I'm gonna
AI.
play some of the
AI
video.
slop.
It is slop.
And their anger is framed as instability. Toxic masculinity doesn't just limit men emotionally, it punishes the people around them for trying to connect with what's buried underneath. So when we speak of toxic masculinity, we're not only talking about the damage it does to boys who are told not to cry. We're talking about the harm it spreads outward, quietly,
chronically,
and often invisibly, into the lives of the women who are taught to carry what men were never allowed to feel.
Oh my God, dude. This is so boring. Like, I feel like I have to, how can I come up with a novel way of responding to the same old shit? Like, I don't like it's like, there's no way to do it. It's just trash. Let me see if Allison is back. She apparently had to reboot or something. Artforce says, yep, that's AI. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like AI to me. I watched the original source. The comment section sucks. Yeah, because it's just so easily consumed, though. Allison's back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. So do you want to hear that last bit again, or Here, I'll play it for you.
Is it anything I haven't heard? Okay, all right.
Well, no, nothing is any like this is if this is
Nothing.
AI, which I think it is. Nothing that it's gonna say is gonna be new because it's derivative, like it's derivative in the most fundamental sense. But let's listen anyways.
Talking about the damage it does to boys who are told not to cry. We're talking about the harm it spreads outward, quietly, chronically, and often invisibly, into the lives of the women who are taught to carry what men were never allowed to feel.
So what do you-
wait. If men
So,
can't
well, no.
express it,
No,
okay.
they're saying toxic masculinity is not only like how something that harms men because it doesn't let them feel or whatever, but it also harms women in like little ways, you know, invisibly and chronically and systemically. It's like cancer. This is basically like testosterone poisoning was the term that feminists used to use in the 60s when they were referring to toxic masculinity or hegemonic masculinity or kyriarchy or whatever it is they choose to call it today. But yeah, obviously toxic masculinity exists, women most affected, but also when it's convenient, it hurts men, but mostly it hurts women. Let's be real. Like that's the payload,
Yep, that's the
right?
payload. But I
Yeah.
don't like if men are not taught to express these emotions, then how are women carrying them? Like, how is it possible that men can be taught to bottle up these emotions and not express them, and women are still carrying them? But also, if men express them, women are doing emotional labor. It's almost like you have to. Being a man is living in a permanent state of a hirsute. You know what I mean? It's just you're just supposed to be uncomfortable all the time. You're just supposed to be
Yeah.
like, ew, I hate
It's like
myself.
it's like wearing pajamas made out of like, fiberglass insulation. Like it's just the worst. The worst feeling. Um
I feel for men just on that level alone. It's like, can they not take the fiberglass pajamas off for once? And so it's not good enough that men maintain society. They also have to feel like shit constantly. Just shit. Like everything, every single moment of the day, they should feel like shit. And if there's a moment where they don't feel like shit, they're up to something. God damn.
Yep.
I
Shut up
wish.
and put on that fiberglass long underwear. I don't want to
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah. I wish men. I've started to in my arguments. I've started to use something I call the feminist adronicus, which is basically the feminist conjecture about what men are and how men react.
Mhm.
And sometimes I wish men were the feminist andronicus, because a woman would have gone up and said something like, I feel, and the feminist andronicus would have been like, no, you don't. You go to jail now. And we're slapping a scold's bridle into you. Women don't get to speak in public. That's what the feminist andronicus would have done. The first suffragette comes onto the stage and she'd just get dragged off and put in the sandwich mines. Then that would have been the end of that. It would just been done. That's it. If feminist was right, if feminist conjecture about the nature of man was correct, the feminist andronicus would have just been, yep, nope, no, I'm stopping you right there. There's no I. What, lady? You're a woman. You don't have a self. There's no I. Those are forbidden words for women. That's what the feminist andronicus would have done. All right, so let's keep going.
It's okay. So I've jumped up to the next talking point, which is about the core of what toxic masculinity teaches boys. Okay.
Hey, sneaky.
Of humiliation, because she had been broken down, because in his eyes she had become easier, and that's the part that lingers. Not just what he did, but how plainly he believes it made sense. He thought she'd be more open to him.
And how
thought she'd
improbable it is. Like, it's improbable. Like, I mean, the feminist andronicus would think in the terms of the logic of that boy, but I think most boys would be like, wow, she's feeling bad. Maybe I will, comfort her. Not, I'm going in for the kill. She's weak. She's a weak gazelle. Isolate her from the herd. Kill her. That's the feminist Andronicus thinking. It's not actual man thinking. Okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right.
Like me more when she was weaker. He says it calmly, without malice,
Why would he
as if
say
it makes perfect sense.
Like, if he
What?
wasn't trolling, why would he say that to the therapist like that? Like, do you don't know that that men who are genuinely so psychopathic are able to pretend to be normal to a degree, as long as they aren't like have retardation. So why would he just openly say, yeah, I did it because she was weak? Twirling mustache. And then I was going to tie her to the train tracks. Like, Jesus Christ.
It's almost that on the nose, though. Like, they might as well have just gone the extra.
Yeah.
Just put in Snidely Whiplash. Just go the extra mile. Just do it.
Exactly.
I mean, like, you're basically like trying to. Oh, we want you know what really annoys me is that people keep falling for this shit. I'll show you guys a little bit later. Like, some people who are supposedly based were falling for this, and I know why, because they're not ready to look at this in the way that you should be looking at this, which is what I said at the outset. The toxic masculinity argument, when used against white boys, because that's the acceptable level, it works on two fronts. One is that the people who are concerned about the racial component will only see the racial component and not see that this is an attack on men. And the people who don't will think it's not about them when they're men, or or they're men, and they will miss it completely. So like, everyone gets all swept up in the whole like, well, actually, these crimes were, the crime of the story is based on an actual knife crime that happened in the UK, where a black man or a black boy did this to a black girl, and they're like, intentionally doing this anti-white thing. And it's like, yeah, because people like you will obsess over the wrong thing, which is the race of the perpetrator, instead of the gender, which is the real goal. And the people who oppose you will understand that this is just an attack on men. So they'll like accept that. They'll be like, well, and then when it does happen, in the case where they can't actually, like get around it, where you show them, oh, here's real evidence, then they're just going to broaden the net and say, well, yeah, it's a problem with men. And because you don't want to see that as like the real issue, and I'm going to say you, the audience, but I mean, some of these people who are supposedly based, they're going to excuse it, because they're like, well, I don't know about the whole male thing. I mean, like, I know, because they can't get around that. It's
the Mott and Bailey.
It is.
Take me a moment to sort of set this up. Let me just bear with me, guys. I know
what are you doing now? What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I'm doing like three things, but I'm gonna focus on this for a second. It's the Mott and Bailey. So they present the white boy, and people are like, but the real case was a black boy and a black girl. You've whitewashed this. And then they'll say, but it's all men. That is the Bailey is the white men, and the Mott is all men.
Yeah. And when you accept the premise, even if it is like, like the other thing is, like, even if you accept that, yes, this is a real crime that happened, but you also miss the other part of it, is that the boy that they're presenting isn't just a white boy. He's a boy whose father taught him that, according to the narrative of the show. And the other kid probably doesn't know his father, because like, this is like a thing that you're going to miss, because most people that are talking about this, they're not looking at the family dynamics at all. They're not thinking about it. They're not looking at this from the perspective of what's the deal with, the presence of fathers, what's the deal with masculinity itself. No, they're all on board. Like, almost everyone else is on board with at least part of this narrative, whether they're distracted by the racial components or the family the part that they're not looking into. They're just not accounting for it. That's why, like, I see a lot of like like a lot of like like Wignat types, like white nationalist types, right? And they see this as like, obviously this is race bait for them that they just eat up, right? And I get it, but you're missing the fact that this isn't about you in that regard. It's about you as men. And they're also the same guys who are like, well, we're going to, you know, like, we're going to like we're going to make families and we're going to focus on all that. It's like, yeah, but your greatest enemy are the white women. Like that's if you don't address if you don't address the woman question, I'm sorry, white nationalists, you're fucked. You're not going to change that situation at all. And they don't like you because they have bought into most of this propaganda. Yeah. So you have to confront this at the gender level. It's the only way. The race shit, the religious shit, all the other shit is like, it used to be the point, or it used to be a thing that I would talk about when the Black Lives Matter thing was happening, right? When I said, you know, they only care about men when it's a black man that dies in a way that is politically expedient for for these activist grifters, right? And I was trying to explain to people that if you don't look at this from the perspective of what are the gender dynamics at play? What are the sex dynamics between men and women? Why is this happening? Like if you have a problem with, you know, rape culture, right? Male rapists, for example, it's like, well, let's look at the history of these male rapists. Oh, look, almost all of them have been raped by women in a lot of cases. Oh, but we're not going to address that, right? This is the same people would be like, well, I think it's just not the same when a teacher bangs her students because like, you know, when a female teacher bangs a male student, because for whatever reason, male students are just different that way. And it's like, yeah, but those guys, because they don't understand consent because of how they were treated by an adult, if they go on later to commit a sexual crime, then you're just going to say, well, that's just men though.
Yes.
You know, you're never going to put this together if you don't start looking at it like fucking adults, man. And it's really frustrating because these people, you know, that they have like massive platforms and they're still saying the same stupid shit that they've been saying for 10 years. They just can't see it. So like, anyway, that was a bit of a digression, but
no, but I got something that might actually help drive home the digression. If you look in the
link that you sent me.
Yeah, it's a link to a comment in our resources. And incidentally, guys, if you want to see the resources that we use, go to badgernation.online and be part of our Discord. That's where I put the stuff up. I actually just really prefer like chat systems than anything in terms of interacting with people. So badgernation.online. If you're not there, you're missing a lot because I put a lot of stuff through there. So anyway, this is a link to one of my posts or comments in badgernation.online. And
I have it up on the screen now.
Yes. Men will be men regardless of intersectionality. And in fact, this is just incoherent nonsense. I'll read it to you guys though. Men have always had the upper hand. Therefore, misandry does not exist because it has never and will never be as bad or rampant as misogyny. Y'all just want to use homophobia, ableism, and racism as an excuse to try to get treated the way we women have been treated. So my first read of that statement is that she thinks men are using intersectional issues in order to get attention. This is despite the fact that black men are the ones who are more likely to be shot. Actually, it's white men, but let's not count that. Gay men were the ones who were more likely to be beaten and
by far
chemical castration and other stuff like that. Men who are disabled are less likely to find partners and more likely to be discriminated against. So in every instance, homophobia, ableism, and racism actually hits men harder. And yet she's saying that men are using these things to get consideration when they shouldn't, when it should only be women. Now, this is an automated response. So maybe this is just basically we're arguing with a bot. At least it says it's automated. It might just be like I don't know, she's being a joke. And then I asked her to clarify this. Try and get treated the way women have been treated. And what is that? And she responds with, raped, abuser, beat, murdered. You have to be stupid if you don't know that. I'm not answering you anymore, though, so you can go suck yourself. Now, again, I don't know if this is a freaking bot. Might be. But again, bots do scrape a whole bunch of opinions that are very common. So this is a completely incoherent thought, but it does reveal something. Intersectionality is used as a siphon to take all of these issues and move them to women. So it is not black men being shot by the police. Using the intersectional pipeline, you remove the man because black women have it worse. And then you remove the black because women have it worse. And now it's just women have it worse. That's how intersectionality works. They take these issues that verifiably affect men more, and they turn them into issues that suddenly and inexplicably just somehow affect women more and justify making women millionaires. That's how it works. And
Yep.
if you cannot see through this and see it is men and women, yes, Britain shouldn't be importing people with these kind of very different cultural attitudes, and also from places where they're dealing with a lot of violence, sexual and physical. So they have problems along that score, especially from areas where they basically rape boys in order to preserve women's chastity. That's stuff that needs to be very carefully dealt with, not just like, oh, we're going to pick you up and smash you into a Western ethnic group. That doesn't work. And it's incredibly arrogant to assume that somehow people in other cultures are still just inherently white Westerners. It just doesn't work. So I'm not saying that this is appropriate, but it's like at the end of the day, they are using this boy who shot this black boy who shot a black girl in order
Stabbed,
to
but whatever. Yeah,
stabbed a black girl in order to manipulate the narrative around all men, including white men, but all men, because white is now men. Like white is male. All right, so
and there's a number of ways to pivot on this too. Like if there's an incident, for example, that involves a man doing harm to another man, like for example, prison rape. All of a sudden, the men who are being raped don't matter because now we're just going to talk about the rapist men. So like that's another thing that they do to it's all about like how can we make it to where women are always the primary victims of whatever it is, or male victims don't exist. Like that's all it is, right? And so they do that. Like when there was an incident in Texas recently, everyone was talking about where a black man stabbed a white man to death in over a seat or something at like a track meet, and it's really terrible and everything. But feminists, if they say anything about it, it's going to be about masculinity, and they're gonna not talk about the racial component because that's not as useful. So they just make it about men. So like and again, none of these people have any interest in solving these problems. Like there's nothing about this at all will ever come up because they don't want to fix it. They just want to figure out how can we blame men and how can we victimize women. So
okay, let's try to get some more. How many?
All right,
more
let's play some more.
Yeah.
I had 10. So this is what number are we on? 843.
Okay, so
this is number 5. This is number 5. So
okay, so I'm gonna do the things. I know it's a bit late, but I was
go ahead.
Doing some stuff in the background.
Yeah.
So all right. So if you would like to send us a message, the very best way to send us a tip and a message is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. You get a little more space to send whatever comment you want. If you want to send a comment, it can just be a tip. We appreciate that. You get a little more space to comment, and you also send it directly to us, which avoids it being subject to YouTube's comment thresher system, which, I'll leave it as an exercise what that means. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a comment and a tip and a message. And if you would like to support the show, you're just like flat out, I want to see you guys succeed in your endeavors, then go to feedthebadger.com/support and put a few shekels in the hat. It should be live now. There might be a few glitches because if you were hearing me clicking, that was what I was doing. But it looks like it's working. And so go to feedthebadger.com/support and just throw a few shekels in the hat so that we can continue to bring you this very, very different content, let's say. I think most people just won't do it. They just will not say, yeah, this comes down to men and women, and this is something that we need to deal with on that level. And it's
Yep.
because most people cannot blame women. They just can't, but I can. I can do that, and nobody can stop me. So
That's right. Okay,
that's why.
let's play. That's right. Let's play a little bit more of this.
Something to like, comment on, and forward to your friends. It turns behaviors that once happened in private, quiet, whispered, sometimes even shameful, into group.
So he's talking about social media and the role it plays, and he's again not like women. Women aren't on social media, right? That doesn't. They don't do anything there. It's all run by boys. Did you know that? Did you guys know? If you go to Instagram, it's just a bunch of dudes. That's all it is. But anyway, let's play some more. But he's framing. Well, actually, I actually think this is likely AI. Like I'm almost 99% sure. And then it makes me wonder if this AI, this whole thing was created by a woman who thought the message would be taken more seriously if a male voice was delivering it. I'm just putting it out there because I don't know, it just seems to make sense to me. But anyway.
Activities, shared rituals, viral moments. That's what happened to Katie. A private photo, leaked, passed from phone to phone like a joke. One person started it, but almost everyone participated, and no one stopped it. That's what makes it even more dangerous.
What?
He's talking about the plot of the show where some girl, I think she had like sent a nude or something revealing or whatever to some guy, and he like shared it everywhere, and she got
Do you think?
got bullied for it or something. I don't really know.
Do you think if one of these boys shared a nude of himself with one of these girls, the entire female population of the school wouldn't have a copy and be laughing at it? Like,
Here's a question. Why is she doing that to begin with? Are we not going to ask that? Are we going to blame that on patriarchy too? Well, patriarchy makes women feel like they got to put their nudes out. Did you guys know that? You go find a girl that you have a crush on and say, look, patriarchy says you got to show me your tits.
Yeah, you gotta
and then
start
they have to do it. They have to do it. Like they're tearful and okay, click. We're not going to hear about like why. No, that doesn't matter. Women do stuff. It just happens.
Behave a bit more like the feminist Andronicus guys. You don't want to prove the feminists wrong by actually acting like a normal man. You need to act in the manner consistent with their stupid theories. Oh wait, Andrew Tate does that. Okay.
Well, yeah. Again, with the women that get paid and worked for him or whatever it was, no, they didn't know what was happening. They were just brainless balloon girls that were just out there putting like it's just crazy like how people just pretend like women don't look well, I don't know how many, probably not a lot, but it doesn't matter. A significant number of women make OnlyFans accounts as soon as they think they can do it, if not before that. Have you heard of the Bop House? You know what the Bop House is? I think we talked about it a little bit. It was on Manifestel. And Manifestel, of course, treated it like, oh yeah, this is women getting that bag while also securing their own bag. So like women celebrate other women being like, putting their bodies out on social media. And when other guys look at it, it's a problem, even though women are doing it for the look, for the attention. Like we're just trying to square this circle. So
yeah, no, okay. Everything is men's fault.
Yeah. All right, let me see how much is left in this code. Here's time 15 to a little 5 seconds.
The idea that something so invasive, so violating can feel normal, like it's just part of growing up, like it's something boys just do. And when everyone's doing it, it stops feeling like a choice. It starts feeling like culture.
Only boys do that though. Girls don't do that.
Again, I want, as a thought experiment, imagine it was the reverse and this boy shared his nude with this girl. That nude, like they should probably research girls and gossiping in like quantum physics, because that nude would probably, before it even hit her phone, it would have hit the phone of all of her girlfriends, and all of her frenemies. Like before he even hit send, that photo would already be in the entire collective girl hive mind. You know, it's like this quantum, it would be quantum paradox. It's a mean girl quantum paradox, but it would be all over the school. And I guarantee that every single girl would be like, like seriously, just do the thought experiment. And would there be any recourse? This would be considered, what is it, revenge porn? Do you think there would be any recourse for that boy? No, he would be brought into the principal's office, and the principal would look at him, or what is it? Like, I don't know if it's the principal in the UK. It's some sort of weird, the
headmaster or something.
The praetor.
Yeah, whatever they call it.
Guard would drag him into the office.
Yeah, the dragoon of education. I don't know.
Or whatever they call it in the UK. They just drag him into the office and look at him.
Actually, that'd be fucking cool as shit. They had like armor and like maybe a halberd or something. The dragoon of education. Yeah, like a horse, like with barding.
Yeah. Okay, but he just get dragged into whatever office they have, head office they had. Headmaster, yeah. That's what it is.
Dumbledore.
Yeah. He'd be like, Harry?
Be a wizard.
Harry, why did you send Ginny your No, it would be, you know, like instant. They would laugh at him, and there would be no reprisals for the girls because it would be blamed on the boy for sending it in the first place. That's the difference between how we treat boys and girls, right? If the boy sends a girl his nudes and she sends it to every single girl she has contact information with, plus maybe a few around on the other side of the world, you know, maybe puts it on a website, maybe gives it to a bunch of known pedophile offenders. Hey, here's a boy who really likes to share his nudes. That girl will receive absolutely no reprisal because everybody will say, well, why did you send it to her in the first place? Because we always refocus on the choices of boys and men when anything bad befalls them, because otherwise we'd have to look at the choices of women and girls and actually regard women in terms of being responsible for the well-being of the men and boys in their life. And we can't do that. That's black speech.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, you know, again, if you need reminding, like if you're new here, you don't know, like women are way more vicious to other women on social media than boys are. That's literally what social media is for. It's basically an arena. It is a battlefield where women try to one up each other in status by tearing each other down. And boys are not the reason for that. They are not. It is not caused by patriarchy. It's just women competing in the sexual marketplace with other women. And that's mostly where it occurs. So, you know, this whole thing about like the problem with boys and social media, it's just kind of retarded because you're leaving out, again, the dynamic. Women treat social media like a Call of Duty lobby with other women. And they have done, I mean, like they will find ways to like tear at your ego that men couldn't even conceive of because they're not able to pay that much attention. So anyway, but that I digress. Let's get to the next clip. This is 11:20. Yeah. So
isn't tragic. It's useful. Boundaries aren't real. They're obstacles. And the sharing of a private photo doesn't feel like a violation. It feels like access. Like a door opening. This is what we need to name. Not just the violence itself.
What? A sharing of a private photo doesn't feel like violation. It feels like access. Don't put it out there. Right? I mean, either we're going to judge girls by the same standards. Well, of course, we're going to continue with this stupid double standard and then complain about the result of the double standard. But anyway, because if you hold women, you don't hold women to the same account as men. They aren't going to develop the skills necessary to achieve in the same ways, insofar as they have this, there's differences between the sexes, but I want to get into that. But so we are not going to hold women accountable For example, if a boy shares his nudes with her for her behavior, and I know you're not going to, but we'll say that, well, why did you give it to her? If you didn't expect her to share it with half, the female half of the human race, why did you give her your nudes? If we're not going to say that to a girl as well as to a boy as well as a girl, I mean, what is equality at this point? It's an excuse for special treatment of women, it seems.
Mhm.
All right.
It doesn't exist. Okay.
Yeah.
So to 1136, a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But the ecosystem that allows it to grow, because when everyone is laughing, reposting, staying silent, what feels criminal on paper starts to feel cultural in practice, and that's when it becomes hardest to stop.
Oh my God, so dark. I'm so afraid for all girls everywhere. Okay, especially the ones that choose to put their private matters online. That's crazy. Next clip is okay, let's play this one.
Oh,
Researchers.
yeah, I was
Yes?
going to say that a lot of, I think they're finding a lot of revenge porn is done by women.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Wild.
Yeah,
Absolutely
wild.
insane. I
That's
didn't think
women by
women were
women.
capable of doing anything bad,
Well,
especially not to the sisterhood.
yeah, but like, are women even capable of doing anything at all?
Oh, well, yeah, if they do anything bad, it's because of men. I forgot. They're basically like skin suits that men put on every so often when they want to do bad things.
Yeah, do women even exist? I mean, after all, the
Yeah,
people who assert this stuff can't define one.
I can't guarantee that I'm not talking to a hologram,
And
a solid
honestly, I
light
think
construct.
that maybe my light bees floating around somewhere. Okay, all right,
Like a million little drones, and they're all like making a shape, and it looks like you. All right. Anyway, let's go.
Have been studying this for years. Studies show that the more a boy believes he has to be a man, in the narrow traditional sense, the more likely he is to struggle with depression, anxiety, and loneliness.
Yeah,
But at
struggle.
the same time, he's less likely to seek help.
Here's the survivorship bias. Okay, I've actually seen the statistics. And we don't know. Yes, men who are more masculine may struggle with depression more, but they're alive to struggle with it. Right? Okay. And what they also found, this man box research found, is that men who, and what they're actually looking at is men who regard masculinity as a positive. So even if you think being masculine is like painting the most awesome painting, if you regard being masculine as positive, then you are seen as being in the man box. See, how you get out of the man box is you regard masculinity as being only negative, right? And what they found is that men who believe that there are positive aspects to masculinity that are unique to men actually do have the ability to cry in front of their friends and talk to their issues with people. This is the surprising So men who think that masculinity affords them a positive personal, sense of self are actually able to talk to people more. It's feminist men who think that masculinity is horrible and awful who actually struggle with talking to other people, crying in front of other people. And it's interesting because the guys who do think that masculinity has value and also pursue stoicism, again, they are able to express their emotions when they think it's appropriate. The only difference is they choose, and for whatever reason, because they value themselves, they can value that their feelings more, if you want to look at it that way. So actually they're finding the exact opposite of what they're saying here. Men who are masculine, or at least find value in the masculine, are able to cry in front of their friends. They are able to talk about things to other people. They may struggle with depression more, but that may be because they don't die from it as much. All right. So that's the only thing they got here. That literally when he says men who are masculine struggle with depression more, that's all they got, because everything else they found the opposite. They found that feminist men have trouble talking about their problems with their friends. They have trouble crying in front of others. And feminist men are actually the ones who are closed off. And what a surprise. If you think your masculinity is awful and you think you have nothing to complain about because you're a man, and if you think you're responsible for all the world's problems, what a surprise. You don't think that it's right for you to actually talk about them. Like, and that, again, this is the only thing that they could possibly spin as a negative towards masculine men. And if you think about it, not in terms of survivorship bias, it's not a negative at all. Because you don't know how many feminist men have actually offed themselves. How many men who don't regard anything positive in their masculinity have offed themselves as a result of being depressed. Okay? You don't know that. And until you know that, saying that masculine men struggle with depression, no. It's like saying people who eat healthy struggle with cancer. And then you look at it and you say, oh, they actually live longer with cancer because they're eating healthy, as opposed to the people who just, yum down.
They just die.
They just die. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So let's listen to the psychological impacts, on young man.
Wait.
You see that?
Yeah, I see that.
It's spelled
like
completely wrong.
Like system shock.
This is all over. Look, it's PSI. Psychological impacts on young man, and young is capitalized for some reason. I don't know. Is it a man named Young? Is that what it is?
Richard, you sent us AI slop.
Yeah, this is absolute garbage. Okay,
but this is like the lukewarm scrapings of people's brains. Let's be honest.
Yep. Right. No, for sure. It's not real. But okay, let's take a look at the psychological impacts on young man.
Less likely to reach out. More likely to feel like asking for support means admitting failure. So it stays bottled up. They try to fix it with validation, with control, with conquest. They chase a sense of being enough, but not through connection.
Guys.
This thing is doing a lot. These claims are doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity makes men into conquering warriors, which we don't like.
Really, we don't like that. That whole song, "It's Raining Men," no. Lean, mean, no, we don't want that. We want you all soft, like plushies. Mm-hmm. And then you see the articles about feminist women saying, "Why don't I find feminist men attractive?" But
right.
This is the feminist Andronicus. Like what he's describing here, you have to realize this has nothing to do with the normal man. It's just feminist Andronicus. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's let me see.
Before you continue, I should explain where I get that from. Like economists have something called Homo economicus, which is basically the perfectly rational actor projected onto humans by a lot of economic theorists. So I figured, if economics can have the Homo economicus, feminism can have the feminist Andronicus, which is basically the man of feminist conjecture, the masculine nature of feminist conjecture, the male culture of feminist conjecture, feminist Andronicus. So everybody should ask themselves, what would feminist Andronicus do? And then do that.
What's funny is that women hold on to feminism like it somehow protects them from the man of their nightmares, the whatever, like this abstract man. It doesn't do anything, but women cannot let it go. Like they really can't. And I'm not going to say feminists. I'm just going to say women and a lot of men. Like on some level, like whether they're, you know, supposedly conservative women, which are just closeted feminists or like just feminists from like 20 years ago, or full on like super radical intersectional pussy hat wearing protesting feminists. They all have this, like they hold on to this belief system thinking that it's the only thing stopping men from, I guess, killing and murdering and raping them.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't do anything. It's like it's not even a security blanket. At least
No.
a security blanket, you can wear it when it's chilly out. It does nothing, but they think it's so important. Isn't that sad? I think it's really sad.
It is a really good point, because like I said, and I keep challenging the feminists that I argue with, well, okay, if men's world is so horrible, what are you doing to get, like, you know, build an underground railroad, you know, part the
Yeah,
Red
where's
Sea?
your underground railroad? Where's your
Yeah, where's your
yeah.
new society? Where's your Zion? And they're like, oh, well, we're getting to that. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not getting to that. It's been 70 flipping years. You don't want a Zion. You don't want to actually leave this society of horrible oppression. Like, so you just want to continue to use the allegation the society is horribly oppressive to women to continue to manipulate men to give you shit. Except there's nothing left for them to give you. And now you're just like, oh, they hate us. No, there's just nothing left. No, anything else you could get, you'd have to build yourselves, ladies. And you don't have the mental tools to do that.
Yep.
Word. All right, let's keep going.
All right, let's keep going. So anyway, societal consequences. Is that spelled right? Yeah, it is. And that's where things get even darker.
Darker. Because in Adolescence, we see this logic play out with haunting clarity. Jamie describes what happened between him and Katie, and in his own words, he makes a startling claim.
Remember, we're talking about fiction. Just saying, okay? Remember that.
He insists that what he did wasn't wrong, because he didn't take it further, because he stopped, because he left, as if that distance was enough to cleanse everything that came before. He frames it like a kind of morality, like proof that he still has integrity. I didn't touch her, he says. As if restraint, after inflicting harm, is the same as innocence.
So doing the bare minimum, that's what this is, right? Did you get that, Allison?
Yeah, I got that. But what? So they had some interaction and he just left.
I don't know, because I refuse to watch that garbage. But I guess he's saying that there's something that he was said to have done, and he said that he stopped or didn't do it or whatever. I don't know. But what this guy is claiming is that, well, this AI, this bot that's likely programmed by a woman, is saying is that because he stopped, like basically, let's look at it like this, okay? Feminists say no means no, right? So let's say that a man does something and a woman says no, and then the man says okay and backs off. That's what basically, that's not enough. That doesn't matter. Like, you're not absolved because of the thing that you didn't do but might have done, right? That's what Richard in the chat says he was being bullied. I don't know. I feel like I know he was being bullied in the story, but that seems irrelevant. And again, this isn't about the show. The show has done its damage. Okay, you can go through the show and find everything that they did wrong, or every covert way that it was actually based. It doesn't matter, because the psyop is out there, and now we all have to answer for fiction. And the people, and the people who are the ones that have the platforms, the ones with the megaphones, and even some of the people who have larger platforms that are too stupid to see what's happening, even though they don't like this for whatever, they just can't, they don't understand why. They're all missing the point, and now we have to respond to that. They're all missing the point. Almost everybody is missing the point. Almost everybody. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to pick up on the problem is that nobody ever actually, this is not going to stop until we hold women accountable. The full stop. This is why feminists can operate with impunity and construct these kinds of narratives. And like you said, this is the making him a white boy when it was actually a black boy is a Mott and Bailey. They can get you to get hung up on the fact that it's the race, and then call you a racist and just fart out some intersectional bullshit and then disappear in the smog to continue to do this again and again. Like, this is an entire fiction. This is somebody taking a conjecture about how men are, a feminist conjecture about how men are, and basing a fictional account on it. Like, I'm pretty sure the boy who actually stabbed the girl didn't do any of this, or didn't have the motives that this boy has. Right? And the other thing is, it's what's really creepy about this is I've seen feminists now use this fictionalized account based on their own theories or conjecture to excuse the real world sexual abuse of boys by teachers. I had a feminist say to me, well, sexual abuse of boys isn't real by their teachers because look at Adolescence. His therapist, she was afraid of him. How could she have forced him to do anything? How can boys be forced by adult women? That's not real. And a feminist actually argue that based on their own. I know I'm getting squeaky and it gets annoying. I'm sorry. This is just so exhaustingly
Well, that's what they
aggravating.
do. It is exactly what they do. This is why the culture is so sick, because the purpose of it is it's all just psychological information warfare. And so every piece of fiction has to be pointed in the same direction so that when the supposed smart people or the academic class and the political class and the activist class come out and they basically make claims about reality, they point to like this bullshit, this culture, instead of looking at the truth. And it's the reason why I care a lot about the culture, because I can see that that's where almost all of our lies are at. And yeah, feminists will, and activist types and commies, whatever you want to call it, they will make reference to fiction in order to make claims about reality. And because people are just like glued to their fucking streaming services or whatever it is they're watching, they're consuming, that's what they think the real world is, because they don't get out of their house. They don't go touch grass. So the culture it's being engineered this way on purpose. And this is the show is done. Somebody asked, I think it was Gin Bottle. He asked if this was like, if there was going to be season after season of this. So this story is done because it's done its damage, but there will be something else, and it'll be constant. It'll be a constant stream of shit. And sometimes it will, be well executed, or at least well enough that people will think, oh, this seems believable as reality. I guess there is a problem with incels, and Andrew Tate, even though those things are completely like diametric opposites, save for the one thing they do have in common, which is men. But yeah, I guess it's reality, and feminists will reference it forever. That's they've got. I mean, they started doing it when they started referencing it in studies. They were doing it when they were referencing each other's bullshit studies. Well, this is the new data I got. Well, what's the basis for that? Well, this old data. Well, who did that old data? A feminist from 20 years ago. Well, how good is that data? Well, don't look at that. She's accredited. Look at all of the papers on my wall. Look at how legitimate I am. Don't question me. And when somebody does, oh, this is bad data, they're like, no, you're a bigot. You're fired. Right? Get out. Whatever. You actually tried to rape me the other day. Like, this is what they do. So
circular citations. They call them woozles.
Yes,
we faced a lot of them.
Yeah, they cite each other in endless circles. They only approve, like when they say, oh, this is like, peer reviewed. Guess what? The peers all agree with the same conclusion. So it's bullshit from the get-go. And then they use those bullshit peer reviewed papers to essentially justify media, because they assume that the average person is too stupid to read their studies. So they just put it in like news stories and how they pick the news and what stories they choose to cover and how they decide to describe them. Like if it's like a bunch of men die, they just say people, it's like all of these little subtle ways. And then they just make reference to that. Oh, did you know about the show? Well, this is reality, guys. And people, I mean, I don't know how many, but I think a significant number of people are like, oh, yeah, that seems fair, because they trust their the authorities, right? They trust
Mhm.
the experts. So
Yeah. And yeah, this is just another level of it. Like now they're just citing fiction,
yeah,
fictionalized accounts.
and
Oh, it
they do it
happens
while
somewhere.
claiming they do this while also claiming that media, like the way that women are represented in media, affects reality. So they are believing that the opposite of what they're doing. So they use media to create reality while claiming that media affects reality, right? So
Mhm.
they make a claim about reality using lies, and then they claim that those lies actually affect reality.
Well, they make media based on these lies, and then they cite the media as evidence of these truth. And then they
Yeah.
say that, like Teal Deer was saying in the chat, that media influences and causes behavior. So making this show contributing directly to the murder of real women. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like feminists say
I
that
think they hope so. I
facilitates.
think I think they hope it does though. They
Yeah,
want women
that's
to
really
actually
that's really
die.
dark.
No, it's true though. They want that because if it doesn't
No,
have
I'm not
like
actually. I can't argue with that because I've
yeah,
seen.
no, they want that because if it does happen, then they get to say, look, see. So like
Mhm.
this is what they're when Charlie Manson killed those Sharon Tate and those people on the purpose of it was to start a race war, and the media around it that was the intention of that, right? So why would that have ended there? Like he was,
Mm.
like why would that have been the end? And it hasn't been. The way that everything is covered, the way that things are presented, I think that accelerationism is the point. So
Mm.
like there's a purpose. It's trying to get people to respond. And yeah, they want women to be harmed because it justifies them continuing to do it while claiming to be on the right side of that.
I would have to say that I think that there's a good argument to be made for that. And the reason why is, again, because I've seen in the 80s feminist groups reject interventions that would have reduced the rate at which women were raped in favor of things that supported feminist conjecture. So there is a precedent for not caring about the actual harms towards women because they can be used in order to continue to perpetrate the ideology. I don't know about killing, but you could make the direct argument for sexual assault on women, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
regardless,
All right, next soundbite, next clip.
yeah.
I think 18, 28. So this is like there's 3 left.
Usually against women, sometimes against peers, after long periods of emotional isolation, rejection, or quiet radicalization. And when the interviews are aired, the journal entries are released, the posts are found, the same threads appear again and again: resentment, entitlement, emotional numbness, and a craving for validation that turns dark when it's denied.
Yeah,
In
and we're not going to
2014,
look at
Elliot Rodger killed 6
we're not
people
going
in
to look at
California.
Yeah, he's
experience.
using the Elliot Rodger as his example.
Wasn't Elliot Rodger sexually abused?
He was at least emotionally and physically abused by his stepmother.
Okay.
His father was a producer, like a Hollywood producer. That's why Elliot Rodger was in California, and his father was not like present really because he was traveling all the time. I mean, like he saw him. I think he would take Elliot Rodger to red carpet events. I remember there was one bit of footage of that was like going around of Elliot Rodger on the red carpet with his dad, and he was, he was obviously like socially distant and like not kind of not really there. Probably his life he doesn't really have a good relationship with his dad, but he did have one. And his mother, I think his mother didn't want anything to do with him. That's why he had his father, and then his stepmom hated him, like because she didn't like the fact that essentially this was a kid that wasn't hers, and she had her own children with this man, but she would always treat Elliot Rodger like really really badly. I don't think it was sexual abuse, but we don't really know. But I know that there was emotional abuse, and yeah, he grew up resenting women. Probably because he resented his mom for abandoning him and his stepmom for treating him like garbage. But again, we're not going to hear about that. We're just going to hear about his entitlement. And the fact, and also he mentions he killed 6 people in California. Like, how many of those people were men?
4.
At least 4. Yeah. So,
Mhm.
and one of them was himself.
Mhm.
So,
That might have been, yeah.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
But
well,
this guy's not gonna. Well, this bot isn't gonna mention that because again, it's all about how you deliver the message so that people think, oh my god, he killed 6 people. And when they see people, they don't think about boys; they just think about women. Oh, he must have killed 6 women because he hated women. So they tell you he hated women, he killed 6 people, and then people go, oh, he must have killed 6 women, and they don't even
Mhm.
think about it. And then, again, that's how you know they don't actually want to fix these problems. They want
Mhm.
these problems to continue because it puts money in their pocket. It gives them more influence, it gives them more power, it validates them. The purpose of feminism is to perpetuate itself, which is the opposite, by the way, of what any activism should be doing. Like, I
Mm.
think the goal as a men's issue advocate is to become obsolete.
Yeah,
That's
go
what it
back to
should
doing
be.
art.
Yeah, right.
Art and writing.
So, but like I'm not in it for that. I mean, I think it causes a lot of pain and suffering. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, Elliot Rodger killed, so he's gonna talk about entitlement. It's sort of like
He
the
already
research.
did, yeah.
It's the research into male sexual aggressors, and they find that they have misogynist attitudes, or they have anti-female attitudes. And yet, if you actually look at the research, a lot of them have been sexually abused by women. So wouldn't you sort of expect someone who's been abused by women to have bad attitudes towards women? Like, I mean,
Mhm.
that. Well, what's the first thing you ask a feminist? Well, what did he do to you, right? Right? And a lot of them have a history of being abused by specific men, which they then project onto all men. Well, I mean, if you're going to accept that with feminists and then institutionalize it, I mean, the same thing is happening with abused boys. Elliot Rodger was abused. Don't you think that might be where his anger came from? Right? Why don't we address the abuse? No, we're going to use him as an ideological talking point. We're not actually going to embrace anything that could reduce violence against women. We're just going to use men who engage in it as ideological talking points, even if they actually killed more men. Okay, just a sec. My dog is going nuts.
All right, I'm gonna let me see. I think that's the end of the clip. Okay. Let me see here. It's 1859. Yeah, that's the end of that one. So let's jump ahead. So basically, they just, Elliot Rodger is the example, and he's the go-to, right? Like, it's been 10 years, no, 11 years almost since he did that. And he's still like the primary example. It's almost like they're running out of examples. So they have to keep pulling the same old garbage, right? So anyway, let's see, 2820. And of course, where this ultimately lands is that all of this is systemic systems. Because
Yeah,
that's important. That's important because what we have to do is tear the whole system down, guys. I don't know if you know
my
that,
my
but
dog was getting upset because another dog was walking past. So I had to deal with that. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I'm just
Okay.
the next time code. All right.
Yeah.
So here we go. Next time code is 2 left.
Confidence. By the time Katie said no, the damage had already been done, because by then, Jamie had already been taught that a girl's rejection wasn't just disappointment. It was injustice, that if she didn't choose him, something was wrong with her, or worse, that something had been stolen from him. That's how it works. This kind of violence doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with sirens or warning signs. It comes quietly, subtly, in jokes that aren't funny, in boys learning that the girl who says no is just playing hard to get, in
All right. Do you want to say anything to that? I'll play a little bit more of it. I mean, this is, again, it's not
It's
new,
just the
but
same shit that they've been saying for 70 years.
yeah,
Like, this is
it's the
just
same shit.
recycled. No matter what happens, they say the same shit over and over and over again. And now they don't even have to make the effort of composing it. They can get AI to just regurgitate their shit back at them.
That's probably what they're going to do, actually. You're probably going to see, like, because AI can just pump out videos, right? And
Yeah.
as it gets better, there, there's going to be like, it's going to be harder and harder to tell if it's AI, if you're not discerning enough. And they're just going to bombard like the internet with all this feminist tripe, because if it's all you see, if it becomes ubiquitous, then most people will just accept it. And it already is ubiquitous, but obviously, like, there's too many dissenting voices like ours that exist, so we have to be drowned out. So I'm guessing that this is going to be like from every level of our society, from like the baseline AI bots putting out tweets and videos and such and posts on social media, all the way up to prime ministers and like, leaders in government, leaders, world leaders, spouting this nonsense. I mean, it's just going to get harder for us unless people just start to challenge these notions. So,
Yep. Well, and challenge them directly, not indirectly. Because again, like they start with white men, but they mean all men. And it's not a functional, like, the reason why I think the strongest argument why you shouldn't have unchecked immigration from certain cultures is because there is a lot of harm to men being done in those cultures that you first have to somehow deal with before you can bring them into a culture where that's not the baseline, right? You got to rehabilitate the abused animal before you adopt them. And I know that it's not like a direct one-to-one correspondence. I'm just trying to give something people can relate to. Like, if you're going to do that, you need to take responsibility. And that's not what these people who are importing men are doing from these cultures. They're not taking responsibility for the ultimate good outcome, which will require a lot more effort and a lot more ability. This is what our culture really lacks: ability to recognize the harms done to men and how to help them with it so that they can integrate properly. It's a very difficult proposition, and we're just hand waving it because, like you were talking about with feminism, we think that somehow feminist ideology is going to protect everyone from everything when it 100% doesn't do that. The fact is that feminist ideology protects no one from no one. So they think they bring these guys in, they slap on some feminism and they call it a day, right? They just say, well, we're going to judge you for not doing this way. Well, that only works on men who respond to that kind of judgment. And, like all right. So you were saying, like, feminism is like a blankie that doesn't really do anything. You're exactly
it's a
right.
security blanket. Yeah,
It's a security blanket that does nothing because you have to have men who respond to it in the first place. Right? If you go ahead and spout feminism at Genghis Khan, it's not going to do anything. You actually need post-Christian men for this. You need Catholic men who actually are attracted to guilt for this to work on. You can't it doesn't work on everyone, right? And the reason why it works is its own antithesis. The fact is that men aren't like this, at least in certain cultures. And I think they're probably all around the world. So we need to remind ourselves that most of the men who come to the West do actually just are like, okay, I'm going to live with this insanity and I'm going to work for my family. Like most of the immigrants coming into the West are like that. That is not to say that unchecked immigration is a good thing or it's done the right way. I'm just saying most men who immigrate are still men. They're still here to try to send money home to the familia, to try to make sure that their wives and kids can eat. And that is not a justification for anything. It is just simply pointing out that men are still men. In most cases.
Yeah. Sure. All right. 28:56. Let's jump to the last one.
Yes, thank God.
30 minutes. So like here, I guess. No, yeah, this is where he basically makes the case that the bot makes the case that this is actually a systemic problem. And and we got to dismantle it. If there was only a word that we could use that would describe this systemic like entity, this thing that we have to dismantle in order to protect women from men. I wonder if there's a word for that.
Because Jamie isn't a monster, and that's what makes it terrifying. He is familiar, he is quiet, he is every boy who grew up believing that feelings are facts, and wanting justifies taking. And so the question isn't, how did this happen? It's, how many times has it almost happened before? This is the moment where we stop pretending that violence begins at impact. It begins at the first entitlement, the first silence, the first time a boy learns that his feelings matter more than someone else's safety. And once you've seen that clearly, you can't unsee it. So the next question is, what are we willing to change before it reaches that point again? If parts of this felt familiar,
What the fuck are they? What the fuck are they justifying now?
Complete tyranny over boys and men, controlling them. Where does it always go?
So now we're at the level of thought crime, are we? What are you going to just inject?
Wait, have you not been paying attention to the UK lately, Allison?
You're right.
I mean, I don't know if this person is English because the character has an English accent, but yeah, and the show it was made in
the
England,
violence starts the moment the moment a boy thinks, hey, this is frustrating and irritating, and he's taught to regard his feelings as facts. Who taught him that? Like, where is this being taught by boy? Like, can we look at that video that I sent you again? Can we look
the one of
at
the boy and the girl
the
saying,
boy and the girl? Who the hell looks like entitled and that her feelings are facts? Like,
right,
seriously. Okay, so now we have to get into, so I guess we're gonna just outfit boys with like Clockwork Orange rigs so we can hear their thoughts and correct them in real time. Little lasers. Maybe we'll lobotomize boys.
Yeah.
You wear diapers, and I'm not a baby. And you're wearing a diaper. Well, babies wear diapers, and you're wearing a diaper. Well, I'm not a baby. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. I meant you're wearing a diaper. I'm not a baby. You're wearing a diaper.
But who's entitled?
I'm not a baby, though. Yes, you're wearing a diaper.
And this is just
not
cute, right?
A baby.
You can hear the parents giggling in the background.
I'm not.
Mhm.
Well, I'm
This behavior is cute.
not even a baby, though.
Now imagine what she would be doing if there wasn't a parent watching, because she probably realizes that she's going to be expected to keep her hands to herself. Let's just imagine her growing up. There's going to be a lot of beaten men in her life because nobody said, hey, this is an inappropriate way to conduct yourself. And she probably she's probably holding back because she knows that if she does indeed hit her brother, maybe her mother will intervene and say, hey, that's not nice. Who's not being taught control here? And again, this is again an anecdote, right? But it's a snapshot and it shows a lot in negative because people don't say, hey, that girl's behavior is inappropriate. Nobody's saying that. Even though if we reverse the genders, we would be saying that. So what this AI is doing is presenting the reverse situation and frightening people with it to continue to make boys submit to abuse. So because boys might one day rise up and beat our asses for treating them so abominably, we need to treat them abominably. They need to continue to be like that boy and just take it from an entitled little creep of a girl.
Yep. There's another minute left in this clip, so this is like let's go ahead and get through it.
Because they are, not as fiction, but as memory. Maybe you saw it in your school. Maybe in a conversation you didn't feel safe enough to finish. Maybe in a boy you thought you could trust. maybe in the silence that followed something you wish you could forget. That's what makes it so difficult. Toxic masculinity doesn't always come with violence in the beginning. Sometimes it comes in charm, in quiet competition.
Sometimes it comes in everything that men do. Breathing,
Yeah.
pooping, eating, walking, just existing. Get that freaking fiberglass pajamas on, men. Everything you do is wrong. Except maybe keep the lights on. But we pretend that doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's absolute. That's right.
And when it finally erupts, everyone wants to ask, how could this happen? But the truth is, it didn't start here. It started the first time a girl said no and had to explain why. The first time she was told to smile when she didn't want to. The first time being careful became routine. So where do we go from here? We speak.
Well, you're really
Not in
running out
rage.
of shit to complain about.
This is so it's so bad. It's so bad.
Though rage is earned, but in refusal. Refusal to protect the comfort of the ones who never protected. Refusal
What?
to absorb what never belonged to woman.
But men
Refusal
never
to keep
protected to
normalizing
women.
harm.
Look,
just because
dude, like everybody trots out Gazelle Pellicott. I think that's how you say her name. But if it was up to Gazelle Pellicott and the women, she'd still be being raped by those men. It was because male police officers saw the footage and didn't let it go that ended. Right? Men protected her when she wasn't protecting herself. And I don't know how somebody loses 2 to 3 days a week of time without noticing, but she apparently was one of those people. So she didn't even have the ability to protect herself simply by recognizing, hey, where are those 2-3 days? Where did Wednesday go? I'm trying to imagine. Can you imagine that, Brian? I seem to have lost Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Where did those days go? I wonder what happened. Why am I feeling a little strangely sore? That never crossed her mind. It
Yeah.
took men, policemen, finding the footage and saying, hey, something's off here, to investigate, to take the effort to care about this woman, investigate it, and end it. It took men. Men cared more about Gazelle Pellicott's safety than any woman or herself. They did that. And so women were like, oh, aren't you afraid? Aren't you afraid of a society that would allow that Gazelle Pellicott to... No, society didn't allow that. Men didn't allow that. One sick fuck did it. Plus, he went on a forum and found a bunch of others. It's very easy to find sick fucks on the internet, okay? Newsflash, guys. Right? So he found these... That's not society, and it's certainly not men. Men were the ones who protected her. So I said to them, I will take heart in the fact if I ever am in a position where I can lose 2 to 3 days of time a week and not notice that there will be men out there who are accounting for my time even better than I am because I'm a woman and they want to protect me. I'll take heart in that. Because it wasn't women that protected this. They came in after when they could get their pound of fat to blame men and to shame men with. They came in after, but they sure as hell didn't protect her before. It was men who did that. And it's like this saying that, oh, men don't protect women. Yes, men protect women. But there will always be the sons of single mothers, abused boys who also, because most abused boys don't go on to abuse at all. They don't. They have to also be behind the 8 ball genetically. So they have to have issues around antisocial personality disorder, right? So they have to have this combination of abuse and genetic factors that lead them to low impulse control. Yes, there will always be these men. There will always be a stable of these men. And that stable will never decrease as long as you blame all men for them instead of abuse and genetic factors, and try to think about interventions that ameliorate that stuff. As long as you blame all men for the existence of the minority of criminal, abused, and men with genetic abnormalities, you will continue to be subject to them because you won't be approaching it in a way. You'll always be using the existence of those men to shame and manipulate other men. And you know why? Because like Brian said, it's not about ending violence against women. It's not about reducing the men who engage in these activities, because if it was, you wouldn't be blaming all men for it. You'd be looking at the factors that create them instead, right? It's about blaming all men, because blaming all men is profitable. It's how feminists get all of this control, all of this money, all of this social clout, is exactly that. We need to have control over thoughts. Where are we at now? What level of authoritarian dictatorship are we at now?
Well, that's the thing too,
Justified through
though.
feminism.
What they're asking for, what they're suggesting as the solution is impossible to implement. But that's why they always make it, though, because they know it can't actually be done. So they get to keep doing this because
Mhm.
you can't, like, they're basically saying, here's what you do. And it's essentially don't allow men to be comfortable, don't allow men to be entitled, reject their feelings. Oh, and what does that do? Well, that's basically going to anger them, and it's going to frustrate them. It's going to depress
Mhm.
them. Things are just going to get worse. And every once in a while, while there's a bunch of men just taking their own lives or just like retreating out in the boonies or becoming like, homeless vagrants or whatever, self-destructing either immediately or slowly, once in a blue moon, one guy will like have a freak out and, maybe commit some terrible crime. And it probably will be against other men, but that's irrelevant because the man committing the crime, committing the violent act, is all they need to start the whole wheel over.
Process, yes.
Let's do the net now. Oh, look here, this happened. You know what this is, right? This is toxic masculinity. Have you ever felt scared, ladies? Like ever? Even though it's
Perfect.
your nature to feel scared. Well, this is why. It's because of men. So you should continue to feel scared and also basically contribute to a climate that continues to perpetuate this mood and divides men and women from each other, makes them not trust each other, which further makes women scared because women actually depend on men for their safety and security, but
You're creating
they
insecurity in
don't.
that relationship.
Yeah, they create insecurity in them, which continues to create the problem. And if you call it out, they'll just say, "Oh, well, you just hate women because women are obviously unsafe." And so yeah, it serves like all of this is I wouldn't call it genius, but it's a self-perpetuating
cycle.
monster. It's a never-ending cycle unless you start to say, well, you know what, women are adults and they make choices.
Mhm.
And
And
let's look
also
at
men have things that
yeah.
happen to them. It's the things
Yeah.
outside of men's control. And yeah, it's like you were saying, it's just because they never address the issue, nothing ever changes about it. And they just use the products of the thing they won't address as evidence of the truth of their own allegations. Like it's
Mhm.
I need to figure out a way to describe this perfidy. It's they are refusing to embrace something that would actually reduce the rate of violence against women or anyone really, at the same time as they're using the product of their refusal to look at this issue in those terms in a solvable way as evidence of the truth of their assertions. It's actually evidence of the opposite, guys. Every man who does this, after we had, or not every, but a good substantial amount of men who engage in this behavior, after we've understood for decades where this is coming from and could have developed interventions to prevent it, every man who engages in this behavior is a failure of feminist conjecture at this point, or a good proportion of them are. It's a failure of feminist conjecture. Feminists say that all of this shit comes from things that feminists want to control. Well, they've controlled it for 70 years. Has anything changed? No, it's only gotten worse, according to feminists. Well, obviously they're failures, right? Giselle Pellicot's husband is a failure of feminism. All of the men who engaged in abusing her, a failure of feminism. At this point, the amount of money feminists had to start reducing the rate of violence against women should have had an effect, and yet it hasn't, because it's a failure of feminism. It's a failure, a fundamental failure of their conjecture about where violence comes from. And so all of this it's beyond just abusing men with this bullshit. This is a failure. This is failure, what we're looking at. This is a group of people that are using something they continue to allow to exist to justify their existence. It's like codependence. Feminism is codependent with men's violence. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So that was the last thing. So we're
All
done
right, I'm
with the
good.
time codes.
Good. Because I'm freaking done. I'm done.
Yeah. That's
and
fine.
I gotta let my dog out of the
Let me
bathroom.
Yeah, no problem. Let me see. I think that's it. Yeah, no super chats or super chows, but that's all right. It's Monday. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, well, I'll see if
So-
there's any thank yous to give. Okay, unrelated to the video. Thank you to Richard Bier for $500. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come again.
Again. All right. So if you would like to send us a message about what we've talked about, feedthebadger.com/justthetip is the very best way to do that. I'm surprised you guys haven't sent any messages. Usually this kind of stuff gets you guys talking, but I guess you were content with the chats. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a message, and we'll respond to it at the next show that we're both on, I suppose. And feedthebadger.com/support to support the show. I'm going to hand it back to you, Brian. So
All right.
Figure it out. Okay.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame. And we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.